Greetings. Welcome to the 9th Annual Kalamazoo Poetry Festival. My name is Gail Martin. I'm the board chair. The mission of the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival is to connect people through the power of poetry. We envision a community where every voice is heard. Our theme for this year's festival is home. Home can be a person, a song, a meal, dance, maybe a pet. For many of us, it's a bit more literal. If you're lucky enough to have stable housing, the importance of home has likely increased the last few years. Home can be a safe place, a place to unwind from daily burdens. For others who perhaps live with someone who's mentally unwell or are struggling with their own mental illness, home can feel like a prison. For many, prison literally is home. For others, sleeping outside is the only option. I was sick with a mild cold over the weekend, and I kept thinking how much worse I would feel or would become if I was forced to be exposed to the elements. There are many people in our community who have lost their home, their basic safety. They're staying on a friend's couch or living in a tent, trying to avoid the police, enacting cruel city policies. While we have the traditional Michigan spring happening here with warmer days thrown in, it's not summer yet. The nights remain cold. Home will become more and more relevant as the housing crisis deepens nationwide, which will only get worse as the climate crisis accelerates. The eviction moratorium here ended last August. More people are losing their homes every day, and it's not just Kalamazoo. We see Palestinians, Ukrainians, people in Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, everywhere are losing their homes and their lives daily. Our larger home, this planet, not doing so great right now. The recent IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report indicated we've got about 3 years to get our act together to prevent irreversible damage, much of which has already happened. And we're not the only creatures to call this planet home. Development continues to disrupt wildlife habitat. Oil pipelines continue to leak and rupture. Deforestation, drilling, wildfires. Indigenous land rights are violated repeatedly and with regularity. In time of crisis, we look to poets to be the truth tellers, to distill reality, to reveal what really matters, to point our compass in the best direction. One of my favorite local expressions of poetry comes from Denise Miller and Dr. Michelle Johnson, who founded Kalamazoo's FIRE Historical and Cultural Arts Collaborative. They closed each reading by saying, "All poetry is prayer. Thank you for praying with us." It is in this vein that I share the following poem by Lucille Clifton. May this be a house of joy. May this be a house of joy. May we be open here to dreams and to each other. May all who enter in these magic walls feel love and feel respect for learning and each other. May we always be friends to life. May we walk in that friendship. May learning live in this house. May it never leave. We are so grateful you could join us tonight as we kick off the festival with our celebration of community poets. Thank you to our readers, our sponsors, our viewers, our hosts, and especially our board members who helped to bring you this festival. Enjoy.
You know, after 2 years doing things virtually, you would think that I remembered to unmute when I started. My name is Frances Vicioso, and I'm the programming chair at the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival. It is an honor every year to support the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival and its production and its implementation and get to know Kalamazoo just a bit more and get a little more intimate every year. It just feels so very good. We're going to start this festival that also falls on Earth Day with a land and people acknowledgement that was written by the racial healing practitioners at Truth Racial Healing and Transformation Kalamazoo, of which I'm one of the co-directors in my day job. We honor and pay our respects to the land on which we stand and its traditional stewards, the Anishinaabe, the Council of the Three Fires, which include the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, also known as Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. We also acknowledge the people of African descent who were stolen from their land and separated from their families through the enslavement Holocaust, and pay reverence and respect to them for building this country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date. This land and people acknowledgement is especially important during our theme this year of home. Caitlin, our board chair, I think did an incredible job at talking about the different types of home, people who have been removed from their homes, home being the world, home being our bodies, home being a place to live where we love and we trust. Speaking of love and trust, I am going to introduce our evening's host. Ed Genesis is a musician, an artist, a creative, an activist, an advocate, and a hip hopologist, where he pays homage to Gil Scott Heron's bluesology theory. He is a resident of Kalamazoo for, I believe, the last 20 years. He's made this place his home and really done that. You know, when you do your spring cleaning and you get your house in order, every day Ed is helping to get our house in order in Kalamazoo by spreading the good word of love, support, racial healing, and hip hop. And that makes this place a home and a special place for us to be. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good bro, Ed Genesis.
Thank you so much for that, Francis. I love, respect, and appreciate you and all that you bring to the community to make this all a better home for us all. Uh, my name is Ed Genesis, and I am excited to be the host once again for the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival 2022. That's right. We're keeping it moving even through the pandemic and having to meet with you all virtually. We're still here and together because that's what makes home, is being in community. I wanted to talk about home if I could before we could start this and get this really going. And that is, I was born and raised in Gary, Indiana. I definitely consider Kalamazoo, Michigan home, but home is also for me where I learned a lot of things. And these are the things that set a foundation for me in order to build a better home for myself and for my family, to do some of that spring cleaning that my sis Francis just lifted up as far as um, making sure our community and our home is a better place. And I don't want to take up too much time because I want to share some before we dive in about my home and some of the things some of the people may have heard, and if not, this is it. It's called Testimony of Elements, and these are some of the things that I learned in my home in Gary, Indiana, which I love. But as I matured, I learned to realize that this is indeed a Rust Belt city, um, poverty-stricken community, and though it was full of richness and a enlarged Black community, there was a lot that we had to deal with. So, as a young dude, I wasn't gang affiliated. I was artistic and creative, eager to learn, and I loved school. I got chased home a few times, and with no older brothers or cousins, wasn't nobody to run to. I felt relieved when I hit the crib. Was brought up in a house full of women. Forgive me for being sensitive. Before the hosting the poetry festival or anything you heard, I was just happy making story out of spelling words. On Saturday, I went to drumming school. At 5 years old, before I was enrolled in any other school. But by the time I hit the fourth grade, I was completely turned out by the streets and making poor grades. This went together with my poor choices. I had the attitude I'm stuck here forever. I'm hearing more voices telling me get comfortable. This is where you probably die. My life was living hell, but I ain't hardly cry. Because I was taught that if you a man, then you'll ride it. But with cracking in the 80s, then my family divided. My mother was getting high, but she was constantly trying to hide it. But I swear it was obvious. We was being destroyed. Holidays and birthdays wasn't being enjoyed. But through all of the drama, I remained a baby boy. She taught me different scriptures that she read from the Bible. The game that she gave me prepared me for survival. I needed it because where we lived was gang bang central. You either was a lame or you bang bang pistols. I was just a skinny dude, so yeah, I had a gun and started to see myself as cool, and cool people never run. So I kept my gat cocked and I kept my hat cocked, yelling 8th of Louisiana because I'm from that block. Yeah, we call that the valley out there. I knew better, so I don't know what had me out there. Could it have been my mother's trouble or the fact that me and my younger brother struggled? Was that really what got me bothered? Or was I still pissed because the police shot my father? Took him up out of this world. He died when I was 2. My closest people told me they would ride if I was you. So that was what I'm going to do. Ride because I'm true. Now, all of this existed before I ever even knew that God designed everything that I had to go through. This is what I saw at home. And I'm happy that I survived to be able to be here with you all tonight. Welcome to the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival 2022. Again, my name is Ed Genesis. I'm going to get out the way and introduce the first poet for this evening, Marissa Harrington.
Home by Warsan Shire. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you, breath bloody in their throats. The boy you went to school with, who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory, is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. No one leaves home unless home chases you. Fire under feet, hot blood in your belly. It's not something you ever thought of doing until the blade burnt threats into your neck. And even then, you carried the anthem under your breath, only tearing up your passport in airport toilets, sobbing as each mouthful of paper made it clear that you wouldn't be going back. You have to understand that no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. No one burns their palms under trains beneath carriages. No one spends days and nights in the stomach of a truck feeding on newspaper unless the miles traveled means something more than the journey. No one crawls under fences. No one wants to be beaten, pitied. No one chooses refugee camps or strip searches where your body is left aching, or prison, because prison is safer than a city of fire, and one prison guard in the night is better than a truckload of men who look like your father. No one could take it. No one could stomach it. No one's skin would be tough enough. The go home blacks, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers sucking our country dry, niggers with their hands out. They smell strange, savage, messed up their country, and now they want to mess ours up. How do the words, the dirty looks, roll off your backs? Maybe because the blow is softer than a limb torn off. Or the words are more tender than 14 men between your legs, or the insults are easier to swallow than rubble, than bone, than your child body in pieces. I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. Home is the barrel of the gun, and no one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home told you to quicken your legs, leave your clothes behind, crawl through the desert, wade through the oceans, drown, save, be hunger, beg, forget pride. Your survival is more important. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave. Run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here. Home by Warsan Shire.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing that. As we keep it going, I'm reminded of when I was in elementary, because we live in the Midwest, we were taught how to remember the Great Lakes, and it was homes. And it was Lake Huron, Lake Ontario, Lake Michigan, um, Lake Erie, and Lake Superior. I don't think I left anything back. So with that, I wanted to name that it just being home, and the fact that we're having the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival 2022 with a lot of people from the community that's sharing different perspectives of home, but at the same time lifting up what Francis said at the beginning, and that is not only just the spring cleaning, but the fact that when we all come together, this is what makes community home. So with that, we want to keep it going and give it up for the next poet, Joseph Gross. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Gross. I'm a local writer, teacher, and librarian. I really wish I could be a part of the program live this evening, but as I could not, I'm honored to send in this video. Thank you so much to the organizers of the event. The Kalamazoo Poetry Festival is a source of local civic pride and has been for a long time. Thanks for including me. My poem comes from my chapbook, Everything at Rest is Waiting to Move, and it's called Blue in Green, after the recording by Miles Davis. I want to see it because they're colors. Chunks of sky through pines on a hill, a robin's egg broken in the grass. Rothko's painting, although that's blue divided by green, which sounds like math for fine arts, something importantly unsolvable. The square root of suffering, ethos to the power of Bill Evans' gentle piano times miles squeezing chrome through a keyhole. We long for association where it doesn't belong. Shapes must be shaped like something, but how else to describe the acoustic bass, its assurance and depth, without giant leaping softly, without looking out the window at the oaks as their roots explode into shape with each thickly fingered turn. Maybe the title meant he felt the blue inside green, and he's exposing hope's marriage of canary to gloom, the way young dancers at a wedding carry in their easy hips the truth of their grandparents, watching from the flowered tables. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for that, Joe. Those are the type of poems that I really like. Those descriptive, and like just the robin's egg, and you're picturing that land in the grass, and you're thinking about those colors. I really like that. Talking about home, Kalamazoo Poetry Festival 2022. I got on this nice shirt that I got from my brother Gabriel Jerome. He is a great poet himself, and co-director and co-founder of Speak It Forward. So I just wanted to shout him out because I'm wearing this nice shirt that he got me, and I think I look pretty fly in it. So with no further ado, I want to bring up the next poet, Gail Martin. Give it up. Thank you.
Greetings. I'm Gail Martin. I'm going to read 3 very short poems united by their allusions to hope, of all things. The first is just when we are lost. The neurologist wants me to believe dreams are mechanical, tired neurons trying to reattach, reorganize, following connections dropped like breadcrumbs in the forest. Waking, there's often the sound of paper tearing, the plink-plink of peanuts filling up the gas line. And just when we are lost and forget which side of the body our heart is on, we are given the dream of a girl drinking her milk, eating deep cake where the centerpiece is entirely frosting, or glide through a clearing where April stands naked, drying herself beside the river, pulling on her long green gloves. The second is called Mayday, which I think we could work with the title to construe either a warning cry for help or the coming of May, or maybe both. Mayday. Unlock the lawnmowers, the leaf blowers, the pickups, hauling silver fishing boats. Let loose the awful blossoms on the pear tree in the pregnant woman's yard. Hand the maracas back to the sandhill crane standing in the wet meadow. Loan jazz trills to the dark-eyed junco. Here inside our dueling coffee pots burble and sigh. No funeral jewelry today, no patients or people we love fading while we watch. In these times, in this house, I read everything as a sign. The fox shows up to say, I'm lonely, or to bring messages from my ancestors and ghosts. Above our masks, we use our eyes to pronounce our stories, to disclose the pinholes in our cloak of certainty. We know better, yet we allow May to seduce us. We ignore the cowbird egg in the robin's nest and laugh uneasily, remembering how we once mistook the shell sign by the highway for a golden moon. Maybe not that hopeful. And the last one I wrote in the very early days of the pandemic. It's called Picture Window. It is this evening I want to remember. My skinny husband reclining, wearing the wool socks he wears year-round. We are eating sandwiches and watching the news hour. The din of the day's evils runs through us, begins to blur like bird smear on the window. I lean into the mercy of this room, this ordinary. My friend, 2 doors north, texts me that she has an oriole at the hummingbird feeder. I take such pleasure in this fact, in the weight of it somehow, and in the lightness too. Thanks. Enjoy the festival.
Thank you very much. Just bringing it back to back. It feels good to be at home. And I don't mean literally and physically. I mean, being in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and seeing the community thrive, build, and share with one another. And that was also another reference to that robin. So I hope y'all paying attention to that. Robin eggs and the bird, you know, just being appreciative of all that we see. In 2018 at the Black Arts Festival, I had an opportunity of co-hosting with this next poet, the sister, it's dope, Taslim Jamila. Give it up.
Peace and divine love. My name is Taslim Jamila. The name of my poem is Legacy. I'm reclaiming everything my ancestors prayed for. Rebirthing legacies that got left at shores, reactivating activities and actions aligned that restore high vibrational core. I come from Southern farmers and Baptist preachers, Chi-Town imams and West African mystical teachers, psychic mamas, village healers, Sunday pew kneelers, dream catchers when everyone else tried to still us, those warrior women who fight with spirit and gun, those men whose bravery is unparalleled, brighter than the sun, where grandmama's cooking is a conjuring, bringing heaven from hell. Those who got royalty in they sails. I come from those who fly with angels, who see life at every angle. I come from women who put rose quartz under pillows, who convene in sacred circles so generations can still grow. Those from Mississippi and Alabama hillers who resurrect everybody, they mama and the dillers, who sang freedom songs, who are God like strong, who transform front porches to become community congregation. Kitchens are sacred sanctuaries, feeding souls and bellies with jarred jellies and herbal salves and elixirs to fix her after broken hearts and abortions with distortions, as we are reclaiming queens with royal rituals, transformative tinctures. We're getting back to plants and soup bones, water bowls and crystal stones, that deep pentatonic tones, moaning music, even in our living room, with vicar healing circles and prayer and hand claps, making possibilities plentiful from the mind traps and spirit imaginations. We're watering the wombs and shucking the corn, elevating us to be reborn, healing okra. I'm from those who hold self-governing elder sessions, who listen to prophecy, that root connection. We are earth people, which anchors me in my power and allowed me to fly free. They hold freedom in their eyes and hands. They are beauty boomers. The ancestors are calling us into grandma's bosoms in the backyards, baking us up, shaking us up, waking us up, creating love beyond this realm, to feel a piece of peace, to Sankofa to spring forth. And we hold on. They pray us whole. We hold on till they pray us whole, because they are whole. Please pray us whole. Please pray us home. Thank you.
Thank you. I told y'all. I already knew. That's like so appreciative. It really made me think about. I shared that piece, which is my testimony of elements, and I just want to shout out my mother, Terry Ann, Miss Teresa Ann Griffin. Uh, I love her. I know she loves me, and I also know what the ills of society does to us all. And so I'm definitely not in a position to judge or criticize. And just hearing that last piece about all the different components of home and how we are earth people, it just reminds us of how we have been stripped away of our origin and our history and given different things to navigate. But I don't want to take too much time. I just wanted to make that acknowledgement. I'm excited to say that Francis Vicioso will be coming in to share something. And I think that's dope, because if you had a picture of leaving something in a better place than you found it, as in community, Francis' picture would be there. I truly wholeheartedly believe that. And with no further ado,
Ed, don't do this. Don't do this, Ed. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, brother, for those kind words. And you know, I can't say that I'm a creative. Well, I can say that I'm a creative, but I'm not a poet, and I'm okay with that. And today I'm actually coming to you to share something that we received at the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival. We got to our P.O. box and we saw a letter. Someone sent in a poem. It's short and sweet and beautiful, handwritten on a piece of paper. And I'm going to read it to you. And it's called My Home by Alan Cook Jr. My home is a special place, something I can call my own. I can fix it up how I want with all the comfort of a home, something to enjoy. My home. When I saw that, I was just really excited because there's something really special about receiving a letter to your home. Something exciting about you opening the envelope and feeling the paper and reading the words that someone took time to write. And I'm just really honored to be able to have shared that all with you. Thank you, Alan, wherever you are, for sharing this with us. And I'm happy to share it with all of you. With that said, I'm going to pass it back to my brother Ed for the next introduction.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for sharing that and just always being beautifully and wonderfully you. Truly mean that. It takes special people to make the community a special place because, as I said, the ills in society have not stopped doing what they are designed to do. And so we need the kind-hearted people that can smile and light up a room. And so that's why I'm so appreciative of people such as Francis and everybody that shared tonight. Just thank you all for being willing to share, to make the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival a thing to tap into during this rainy April day in 2022. As we keep it moving, I would like to introduce Devin Wolf. Give it up.
Hello, my name is Devin Wolf, and this is my poem, Consideration. Getting harder and harder to breathe, gasping for air like suffocation, killing off the human reefs made popular by gentrification, struggling to reach the surface, slipping further into debt, told this is our purpose, until we are all dead, filling the pockets of evil, blood thickened by oil and afraid of the slightest upheaval. Can you taste the soil? The human race has been doomed for ages, imprisoned by powerful voices, chosen to act like our sages, but they only make selfish choices. A population going under, will they ever look up? Can you hear the thunder, or are you still struck?
Thank you so much. I wonder, can we hear it sometimes? I definitely try to tune in myself, and that's one of those thought-provoking poems. Thank you very much for that, Devin. I want to shout out my cousin Jazzy. Happy birthday, happy heavenly birthday. She passed from lupus, young lady, 19 years old. And these are the things that we think about when we think about home. We think about family. We think about loved ones. And as has been talked about all night or throughout the night, we think about ways that we can make it better, whether that's thought-provoking or sharing something, a memory, a testimony of love, and sometimes just a testimony of some of the things that you've been through. And that's important that we all be able to sit down at the table together and be able to talk about how do we make our house a home. And I really just wanted to say that because I think my energy may be fluctuating and going up and down, and I don't mean for it to. I'm definitely happy and honored to be here. My birthday is at the end of this month, so the rain is, I invite that. It's been with me all of my life. This is a privilege. This is my 5th time hosting the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival, and it is always an honor to be able to be here. And I'm gonna shut up again so we can bring the next poet, which is Susan Ramsey. Give it up.
Hi, I'm Susan Ramsey, and this is The New Room by Lamplight for Mike Plosick and Steve Barrett. So far, nothing has been allowed to enter that is not either beautiful or plain. There remains some room for softness, a small sofa, an armchair, some bad habits, dust. But first, they stripped it down to shiplap and beadboard ceiling, to dangerous squirrel-frayed wires, ants, rust, and rot. They learned all our secrets, like priests, like doctors, like God. We let shame go, and they still loved us. When they built it back, each layer was better than they had promised. Ingenious wiring, plump insulation tucked into every gap, brilliant windows that actually open, generous frames. It was like growing young or becoming good. Nothing to hide. They built us absolution. Now this, first time this fall, the furnace whispers, and through pristine vents, the warm air pours across the floor to my corner, its breath on my feet, a big dog at peace, asleep, and dreaming of fields.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're keeping it going, and thank you all for just expressing the different things about home and making this feel so much more like a home for me and so many others. Again, my name is Ed Genesis, and I've been your host. And here we go. Sorry, I was reading those comments over to the side. With no further ado, I would like to introduce Elizabeth Kurlikowski. Give it up.
What she doesn't write. She wants her poem to be a wand bedazzling trees with dewdrops and fireflies, subtle and thought-provoking. Instead, her poem runs barefoot to the compost and likes the mud field squishing between its toes. The poems she didn't write meet for wine and repartee in a darkened corner of the Park Club tea room. They are all thin and admire that about each other. Her poems intend to square dance at bells, but instead just drink and tell embarrassing stories about themselves. One of them farts and they laugh hard. The poem in her mind is a broken mirror, put back together so that only the fine lines of the shattering show. On the page, it's a stack of wet boots melting on the floor. Any refinement is white sugar, sweet, but finally not satisfying. She thinks she wants her poem to reside in the New Yorker, but in the dark, it sneaks out with spray paint to tag City Hall. Tabula rasa, which is Latin for blank slate, and many people feel we are born as blank slates and life writes on us. Tabula rasa. After history and current events, the teacher announces the chalkboard is dirty, but it's just full of echoes of what was written before, crosshatched with memory. She asks a child to erase it. The long yellow eraser swoops phrases away, but leaves dust rearranged into lines that don't mean anything. Stubborn words disappear, but not their after images. Meanwhile, broken pieces of letters sift into the chalk tray like pieces of the globe if it exploded. How quickly 40 years disappear. The enchanted day by the river, blackberry picking, names written in dust. A child doesn't understand what dust is, that it's more than itself. It's everything abridged. The board will not be fully clean until an adult goes after it with soapy water. In a swipe, Vietnam gone. The dogs, Thor and Loki, gone. Nothing is left but streaks that define this new emptiness. Alphabet ghosts watch above the board. No one should clean a chalkboard so thoroughly that nothing is left. Birds in the 21st century. They were not necessary. We regarded them as we did sequins on a sweater or the movement of rickrack around a hem. Birds were doodles in the margins of our pages. They were not essential like air and water, but they filled the trees with music, added color to winter, and amazed us with their tiny powers of flight. They were always busy pulling worms from the ground, sleeping with one eye open while balancing on a wire. You try it. Their motley nests in ivy, in corners, in trees, on the ground, hid them from us and smaller predators. Their eggs wore the tartans of different countrysides or opted for sky blue, but birds stopped being necessary when we moved inside. Once we read the weather in their migrations, but now there's TV. Sometimes a warbler thumped into a window and dropped, stunned or worse. Children buried them with beloved pets. Some birds weighed less than a penny. The birds needed to hear each other sing, so they stayed up later, rose earlier because of human din. Illumination everywhere, all the time, wore them out. No one found long jewels of blue jay feathers in the grass. Bird baths grew moss. Bugs thrived, even less reason to go outside. People who remembered birds were asked again and again to describe how ducks landed feet first on a pond, how hawks snatched sparrows from the air, how with a great deal of fluttering, the cardinal mates landed on the windowsill to feed each other seeds, and about the wren who lined her nest with rabbit fur. Unbelievable that such small, inventive creatures, so unlike us, lived in our lifetime. Magicians of the air, sign of spring. What a hang around my neck in shade.
I'm going to go back to something that Ed said. This motif of birds, I think it's interesting because I didn't think there'd be so many birds mentioned today during the Poetry Festival. And it's beautiful because birds share homes with us. Birds are a beautiful example of how to create homes anywhere, because birds, they will find a place, they will find a tree, they will find a roof, they will find a bench and make it happen with all the rest of them. I think that we can learn from them as they put together their homes. I want to move into a new section of the Poetry Festival where we talk about local acknowledgements. As you heard tonight, and as I'm sure you've witnessed as you've lived here and enjoyed the arts that Kalamazoo has to offer, you know that we have some pretty damn special people here. And it is my honor tonight to acknowledge some of those folks who are winning fantastic prizes. So I want to get right into that. We'd like to recognize Diane Seuss for winning the National Book Critics Circle Award for Poetry Prize. I'm going to start that again. Sorry, y'all. We'd like to recognize Diane Seuss for winning the National Book Critics Circle Award for Poetry Prize for her collection Frank Sonnets, and Gail Griffin for being the winner of the 2021 To Sylvia's Press Wilder Poetry Book Prize for her manuscript Omena Bay Testament. Two outstanding accomplishments from local poets. In case you haven't looked recently, we've added an acknowledgement submission form to our website. We want to know about you. Let us celebrate you. Tell us if you've written some poetry lately, if you haven't written it before or in a while. Tell us if you've gotten published. Tell us if you won an award. Tell us if you took your first poetry class and you're feeling super excited. Share your successes with us because we want to share your successes with everyone. So every year we will be having this acknowledgement section at our celebration of community poets. And we want to include you. Let us big you up. Before I pass it back to Ed, I want to leave you with a small ask for all of our viewers out there. You've heard a lot of thoughts of home today. Home in our bodies, home in our minds, home in our hearts. Home as a physical place where we live. Home as a country, a neighborhood, and the planet Earth. I would love for you to identify a home, and I want you to do something to make your home feel special. So whether you do your hair a fancy way, or you finally declutter that junk drawer, or you plant some beautiful flowers in your yard, or you just take a walk and admire the beauty that is outside. But make your home feel special, because every home, no matter what it looks like, is a special place. I would be remiss and I would never think of not thanking Ed Genesis for being our gracious host for the 5th year in a row. He is an incredible individual and I am so honored. Ed Genesis, you make, I don't know how you do it, but you manage to make every space I'm in feel like home. And I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you for making Kalamazoo a better place. Kalamazoo, the board, the whole Poetry Festival board, and I especially appreciate you so much. I'm going to pass it off to Ed to close us out.
You just make my heart leap. Thank you so much for that. I just really appreciate you. And because I know you're such a genuine person, it's so real to me. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Again, this has been an honor. I cannot brag about this enough. The first time I was ever asked to even participate in the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival, I was blown away. And I called everybody I knew, literally everybody I knew. And I'm like, guess what I'm doing? Guess what I'm doing? And the next year, I was asked to host, and it just blew me away. To be able to be here now for the 5th time is like not only a blessing, but I don't have the words, honestly. I'm humbled, definitely. Um, and I'm honored. I really feel seen and heard in my community, which makes this feel more like home for me. And that's important. I am directly impacted. This was not my original home. All of these different things come up because society puts you in your place and they tell you where you're here, where you're here. And just to be welcome, to be embraced by a community is, I can't put it into words. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I just really, I don't mean to get mushy or emotional. I just have to be for real. And thank you to the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival for allowing me to bring my full self to the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival, to feel at home in my shirt with these roses. And I believe every home should have toothpicks in them. And I want to put that out there. With no further ado, I want to do the wrap up acknowledgements. And that is, we want to thank all of the individual donors and organizational sponsors for making this festival possible. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow for the open mic, 7 p.m. And the Kalamazoo Poetry, excuse me, the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival workshops. And they can be found on the website, which is at kalamazoopoetryfestival.com. Make sure you tap into that. I know it'll be lit. If I'm not mistaken, Great Dane has something to do with that. So that's always going to be something powerful. So tap in. And the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival always brings it. And next year, I'm getting one of those acknowledgements because I've been working on my poetry book. Yeah, that's right. And that's dropping sometime 2022. Probably about fall, but it's coming. So I hope I can be in the acknowledgements for next year. And with that being said, I want to thank all of the poets that came and shared. Thank the interpreters for breaking it down for everybody so we all are included. in community. Thank you to Francis, of course, Lydia behind the scenes, just in case y'all didn't know, there's been a lot of power movement behind the scenes, and making sure that transitionings were going. And thank you to the Kalamazoo Poetry Festival as a whole, just for allowing this space of creativity, of sharing, of community. And again, my name is Ed Genesis. It's been great. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all. Peace.